Using yarn for sewing can be fun for even the boys. You'd be surprised how many boys enjoy sewing with their yarn. Here's an example of a tunic made by Dorcas for the widows, and the children would be able to sew around the outside of it. One thing in using yarn is that you want to make sure that you finish off the ends, because if they're not finished off, it gets very frustrating for the children. If you notice here, I have a piece of yarn where the end looks pretty good, but if they start sewing with it and they try to bring it up through, pretty soon it's going to get very frazzled and they're going to end up with a big ball of mess at the end of it. So it's a good idea to make a needle for them. One way to do it is by using masking tape, and I've just finished off the end by wrapping masking tape around it. Another idea that you can use is by using glue, and you'd want to do this before class because it does take time to dry. So I've just saturated this in glue. And let it dry on a piece of wax paper. Then when you pull it off, it's firm and it's not going to unravel. So that could be like their needle. Another idea that you can use is by using wax, and again you'd want to do this before class, and just by dipping it into the melted wax and allowing it to dry and to cool, then it will become firm and all of the pieces of the yarn will be held together, and they can use that for a needle also. The example that I have here, though, I've just used regular Scotch tape. And just by taking a piece of tape, and I have my end here, and you'll just start wrapping it around. And once you wrapped it around the top a little bit, then start molding it so that it goes down the yarn and makes it longer. Cut off the top there, and you've got a needle to start sewing with. In our example here, I've started it. I've got an end at the back here. If you want, you can tape this down so that when the children are sewing, they're not pulling it all the way through, or you can just have them hold it until they get far enough along that they can't pull it through. But you can see how easy this is then for them to just stick it through the hole and sew. Now you might get those ones that want to do a blanket stitch or some kind of stitch that might not look what you want it to, but it's okay. This is their sewing project and they can make it however they want. A couple of other examples that you can use that aren't necessarily sewing clothes would be just to use some yarn around the outside of a picture. Again, they would just sew around the outside, or using yarn for bars in a jail. So just think of ways that you can use yarn to incorporate into your picture by using holes and letting the children sew.